9 months ago, I posted 2 videos about starting over at 62. And then I disappeared. The truth is, I didn't disappear because I was busy. I disappeared because my life started unraveling in ways I didn't expect and I didn't want to admit out loud. And honestly, I was embarrassed. So if you've been wondering what happened during those 9 months, I want to share the truth with you. So, hi, I'm back. But first, if you're new here, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Rhonda Taylor. At 52, I sold nearly everything I owned. I bought a one-way ticket and spent 9 years living and working in more than 30 countries around the world as a full-time digital nomad. This channel is where I share what midlife reinvention actually looks like. Not the highlight reel, the real version. And right now, the real version looks like coming back after 9 months and finally telling you what was really going on. If you're a woman wondering whether it's too late to start over, you're in the right place. And if life has ever blindsided you in a way you didn't expect, you may recognize parts of this story. The last time you saw me, I had shared something really personal. And then I went quiet. Not just on YouTube, on everything in all aspects of my life. Part of it was my health. I was in Seattle and I had a health scare. I ended up in the ER. And I remember sitting there staring at the ceiling, realizing I didn't have health insurance in the US. And that moment hit me hard, not just because I was scared, but because it brought back one of my biggest fears into real life. For almost 9 years, I lived outside the US and healthcare just worked differently. So if I needed to see a doctor, I paid cash and it was affordable. I did have international emergency insurance coverage. I took care of myself. I had regular medical checkups and dental visits. I wasn't being reckless. I was doing what made sense for the life I was living. But this was different. I was back here in an ER, and suddenly that fear I'd always carried, it was real, and I was terrified. But that wasn't the whole story. And honestly, that's the part I probably need to be more clear about. My income had taken a real hit too, and it shook me more than I wanted to admit. Because when your income starts falling apart, it's not just about the money. It hits your sense of security. It hits your confidence. It hits your identity. It hits your idea of what your future is supposed to look like. And at the same time, the work I had relied on for years was really starting to change fast. For over 25 years, book design and self-publishing was my anchor. It was the thing I always knew I could do. It was the thing I thought I could always fall back on. And then AI came in and changed the publishing and graphic design industries in really big ways. So now I was dealing with health stuff, income instability, and an industry that no longer felt steady in the way it once had. That's a lot. And I think I was carrying all of that while still trying to look like I was okay. And I wasn't. I had spent years building this identity around freedom, traveling the world, working for myself, figuring things out, creating a life I absolutely loved. And then suddenly, I found myself living in a fifth wheel in Arizona, trying to rebuild my income, dealing with my health, and wondering how my life had gotten so small. That was hard for me to admit. Not because there's anything wrong with rebuilding, but because it didn't match the version of me I thought I was supposed to be by now. especially at my age. And I didn't know how to explain that gap. So I didn't. I just went quiet. I told myself I was focusing on my health, and that was true. But it wasn't the whole truth. The whole truth is I wasn't ready to be seen in that season. I wasn't ready to say, this is harder than I thought. I'm scared. My income has changed. My work is changing. And I'm trying to figure out who I am in the middle of all of it. But something has shifted in the last few months. My health is better. I feel stronger. I'm active again. And I finally feel like myself again. And maybe even more importantly, I've stopped fighting the fact that life changed. Instead of resisting what was happening in my industry and feeling threatened, I started to lean in and get curious. So I started asking, okay, what now? What can I learn? What can I build? What could this next version of work actually look like? And that shift has changed a lot. I've started picking up a few client projects again. I've started looking at new tools differently, and I'm having fun with it. And I'm starting to see that I'm not beginning from scratch. I'm beginning from experience, a lot of experience. And honestly, that has helped me breathe again. The one thing I know about myself is this: I keep going. Even when things get messy, even when I don't have the full plan yet, even when life humbles me more than I would like it to, I keep going. And if you're watching this, I have a feeling you do too. Whatever your version of this season looks like, maybe it's divorce, maybe it's grief, maybe it's a job that changed or disappeared. Maybe it's just that quiet feeling that the life you built no longer fits the person you are now. I want you to know this. It's okay if you're rebuilding. It's okay if you've had to pivot. And it's okay if your next chapter looks nothing like the one you thought was coming. Because starting over doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it just means life asked you to build something new. So here's what I'm doing now. I'm rebuilding in real time, not just financially, but personally, emotionally, professionally. And I'm doing it with a very clear intention. I want to build a life that I absolutely love again, a life with freedom, a life that feels sustainable, a life I can live and work from anywhere again. Maybe not exactly like before, but in a way that fits who I am now. And I'm going to take you with me as I figure that out. If you're a midlife woman who knows you want more freedom, more flexibility, and maybe even a life you can live from anywhere, this is me figuring it out in real time, and I'll share what I learn along the way. That's what this channel is now. The rebuilding, the reinvention, the decisions, what's working, what's not, and what it actually looks like to create a life you love in this stage of life. If you've been here since the beginning, thank you for waiting. And if you're new here, welcome. Subscribe if you want to follow along. And please tell me in the comments where you are right now in your messy middle. I really do read them. And if you haven't seen the video where I sold everything and started over, I'll link it in the description because that story explains how this whole journey began. So until next time, rebuild boldly and live fully.